Carl Jung never defined stupidity in terms of intelligence or academic ability. For him, true foolishness had nothing to do with how much you knew or how clever you sounded. Instead, stupidity was a moral and psychological failure, the refusal to look inward. It was a state of unconsciousness where a man lives disconnected from himself, acting out patterns he doesn't even realize he's repeating. Jung saw the truly stupid man not as someone slow, but as someone arrogant, unaware, and resistant to change. A man who hides behind a false identity, projects his flaws onto others, and avoids taking responsibility for his own suffering. That, Jung believed, is the most dangerous kind of ignorance. Let's begin with the first sign. 1. Blaming everyone but yourself. The stupid man always has someone else to blame. His life isn't what he wants it to be, so it must be his parents' fault, his partner's fault, society's fault, the system's fault. He is the eternal victim of external circumstances. The idea that he might be the problem, unthinkable. Because to take responsibility would mean confronting his own shadow, and that's something he's never had the courage to do. Jung taught that the parts of ourselves we refuse to face don't disappear. They go underground. They become part of what he called the shadow, the unconscious self, made up of all the traits we deny, repress, or disown. And the more we reject our own flaws, the more we project them onto others. The stupid man lives in this projection. He doesn't see reality. He sees his own unconscious fears, weaknesses, and wounds reflected back at him through everyone he meets. The liar accuses others of lying. The manipulator says he's being manipulated. The man who cannot love himself claims the world has turned cold. He narrates his life as a constant struggle against external enemies, never realizing the real enemy is within. Jung would say that this man is deeply possessed by his own shadow, but because he refuses to acknowledge it, it controls him completely. Blame is easy. It protects the ego. It keeps a man from facing the discomfort of his own truth. But that comfort is a trap. A man who blames everyone but himself is not in control of his life. He's a puppet of his unprocessed pain. He'll never grow because growth begins the moment you say, "It's me. I need to change." Now, the second sign, 2. No emotional control. The stupid man does not master his emotions. His emotions master him. He believes that whatever he feels is the truth. If he's angry, someone must have wronged him. If he's sad, life must be unfair. If he's frustrated, the world must be broken. He never stops to ask, is this feeling real, or is it just a trigger from something deeper? Jung believed that a man who cannot contain his emotional energy is not a man at all. He is a fragmented psyche. When a man is ruled by anger, jealousy, fear, or insecurity, and doesn't even recognize those patterns, he is not free. He is possessed, not by demons, but by the unconscious parts of himself that he refuses to face. And so he becomes reactive, impulsive, emotionally volatile. He might call this being real or expressing himself, but it's not real strength, it's immaturity. True emotional strength is not about suppression. It's about regulation. It's about feeling deeply and still choosing to respond with intention. A stupid man doesn't do that. He erupts, he attacks, he self-destructs, and then wonders why people walk away from him. He doesn't just hurt others, he sabotages his own life. Opportunities fall apart because he couldn't control his temper. Relationships dissolve because he doesn't understand boundaries. Dreams are abandoned because he lets fear speak louder than discipline. He might look powerful on the outside, but inside, he is at war with himself. Jung warned that without integration of the anima, the inner feminine, men become emotionally unstable. They either suppress their feelings entirely and become cold, or they get swept away by them and become chaotic. The stupid man never integrates. He reacts. He blames his emotions on others. He says, "She made me angry," or "They made me feel this way," never realizing that no one controls his inner world but him. This lack of emotional control is not just a personal weakness, it's a spiritual one. Because when a man can't hold his emotions, he can't hold space for truth, reflection, or transformation. He is stuck in survival mode, always defending and always attacking, always running from the silence where growth actually begins. A wise man knows his emotions. He listens to them, but he does not obey them blindly. He has the capacity to feel and still remain centered. He's aware of the storm, but he doesn't let the storm steer the ship. That's maturity. That's power. That's presence. The stupid man never learns this. He is addicted to the intensity of feeling because it makes him feel alive. But intensity is not truth, and emotion is not always guidance. Sometimes emotion is just a symptom of unhealed pain. And until he realizes that, he will continue to act from wounds, not wisdom. These two signs, blame and emotional chaos, often go hand in hand. The man who won't take responsibility also refuses to examine his reactions. He believes that life happens to him, never realizing that life responds to him. His inner world shapes his outer experience, but because he doesn't know himself, everything around him feels out of control. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The stupid man calls it fate. He calls it bad luck. He calls it betrayal. But in truth, it is his own unconscious that is shaping everything. And he is too blind or too proud to admit it. But this blindness is not permanent. It can be healed. Stupidity in Jung's world was not a death sentence. It was a condition of disconnection. And every man has the power to reconnect with courage, with self-awareness, and with the willingness to grow. In the next part, we'll uncover more signs of unconscious foolishness and how to escape them. Because true strength begins not with knowing everything, but with finally seeing yourself clearly. The third sign of a stupid man is harder to see because on the surface, it can look like confidence, but it's not. It's a mask, a hollow performance. It's the kind of pride that isn't rooted in self-respect, but in fear. This is the superiority complex, a fragile ego pretending to be unshakable. A man who constantly feels the need to prove he's better, smarter, stronger. He corrects others just to feel important. He belittles those who disagree with him. He dominates conversations. He hides his insecurity beneath a loud, polished surface. And the worst part is, he believes it. He truly thinks he's better than others. Not because he is, but because he can't survive the feeling of being less. Carl Jung warned about this kind of inflated ego. He called it identification with the persona, the social mask we wear to function in the world. The problem isn't having a persona. We all do. The problem is when a man confuses the mask with the self, when the image becomes more important than the truth. The stupid man believes he is the persona, and he protects it at all costs. He can't take feedback. He sees criticism as attack. He surrounds himself with people who agree with him and pushes away anyone who challenges his view of himself. But beneath the performance, he's deeply fragile. That's why he reacts so strongly to any threat to his ego. A truly secure man doesn't need to prove anything. He knows his worth. He doesn't have to dominate or pretend, but the stupid man can't let go of the act, because without it, he's empty. He's still that scared little boy who never felt enough, now wearing the mask of superiority to hide the shame he never healed. This is not confidence. This is insecurity dressed in arrogance. And it's dangerous because it prevents growth. It blinds a man to his flaws. He doesn't improve. He compensates. He doesn't reflect. He postures, and the more he inflates himself, the more disconnected he becomes from who he really is. Jung would say this man is out of alignment with the self. He lives in the image, not the essence. And so everything he builds is fragile because it's built on illusion. Now, the fourth sign, avoiding responsibility at all costs. This man might seem charming, relaxed, even easygoing. But behind that surface is one defining trait. He runs from responsibility. He doesn't follow through. He makes excuses. He blames timing, circumstances, other people. He talks about big ideas, but never takes action. And when things get difficult, he disappears. The stupid man is allergic to accountability because deep down, he fears failure. He fears pressure. He fears what it would mean to actually commit. Jung would say this man is stuck in a state of unconscious immaturity. He never developed a strong ego, not the inflated kind, but the real one. The kind of ego that can carry weight, face discomfort, and endure challenge. The kind that allows a man to become a stable presence in the world. But the stupid man avoids this growth. He wants freedom without responsibility, validation without effort, results without discipline. He doesn't understand that responsibility is not a burden. It's a gateway to power. The moment a man accepts full responsibility for his life, everything changes. He stops waiting. He stops blaming. He begins to create. He becomes dangerous in the best possible way, because now his power is rooted in choice, not chance. But the stupid man never gets there. He wants to be a king, but refuses to build a kingdom. He wants love, but avoids vulnerability. He wants success, but won't face risk. He wants to be seen, but hides from truth. He lives in fantasy, in theory, in avoidance. He calls it going with the flow, but really, he's just floating, adrift, passive, unrooted. And the more responsibility he avoids, the smaller his life becomes. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But becoming requires responsibility. It means facing your fears, owning your past, showing up even when it's hard. The stupid man avoids all of this. He thinks responsibility is a trap, but the real trap is the life he's living. A loop of half-efforts, missed chances, and quiet regrets. There is no transformation without responsibility. There is no maturity without weight. And there is no freedom without structure. A man who refuses to carry anything will never go far. He might look free, but he's empty, hollow. And eventually the world reflects that back to him. The illusion of superiority and the fear of responsibility are deeply connected. Both are strategies of avoidance. One hides weakness with arrogance, the other hides fear with indifference. But both keep a man small, both keep him unconscious, and both are signs that he has not yet met himself in the mirror. In the final part, we'll explore the last and most subtle sign, a complete disconnection from self-reflection, because the most dangerous kind of stupid man isn't loud. He's silent, passive, unaware. He lives without ever asking why, and that kind of life, Jung warned, is not really lived at all. The fifth and final sign of a stupid man is the most dangerous of all, because it's the quietest. It doesn't shout like arrogance. It doesn't collapse like emotional chaos. It simply exists in the background of his life, shaping everything he does without him ever noticing. It is this: he refuses to reflect. He doesn't think deeply about his choices. He doesn't ask himself why he does what he does. He doesn't question his beliefs, his patterns, or his motivations. He just moves through life automatically, repeating what he's always done, thinking what he's always thought, becoming what the world expects him to be. And the worst part, he never notices. He believes this is normal. He thinks he's fine. And in that illusion, his life passes him by, unexamined, unexplored, and unfulfilled. Carl Jung believed that the unexamined life wasn't just limited, it was dangerous. A man who does not reflect cannot grow. He cannot evolve because he doesn't know where he is or where he's going. Reflection is how we break the loop. It's how we take unconscious patterns and bring them into the light. It's how we stop being a victim of fate and start becoming a participant in our own becoming. But the stupid man resists this. He fears silence. He avoids stillness. He fills his time with distraction, noise, entertainment, validation, anything to avoid being alone with himself. Because when he's alone, the truth starts to whisper, and he doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to face the fact that he's not as wise as he pretends to be, that he's hurt people, that he's repeated mistakes, that he's been afraid, lost, insecure. He doesn't want to feel guilt or shame or regret. So he builds a life that protects him from all of it. A life of shallowness, of automatic motion, of unconscious choices. And slowly, quietly, he becomes a stranger to himself. Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The man who refuses to reflect lives entirely under this law. He believes that life just happens to him, that his pain is unlucky, that his failures are someone else's fault. He never asks what role he played. He never wonders what he might need to change. He never looks inward because he doesn't believe the answers are there. But they are. They always have been. The man who avoids reflection is the one who lives by reaction. He doesn't create, he copies. He doesn't lead, he follows. He doesn't build, he waits. And when nothing changes, he blames the world, never realizing that the world he experiences is shaped entirely by the lens he refuses to clean. There is no growth without self-honesty, no power without awareness, no change without reflection. The man who refuses to stop and look within is not just foolish, he is asleep. And no matter how loud, charming, or successful he may appear, he is moving through life blind. This blindness spreads. It shows up in his relationships, where he repeats the same patterns over and over. It shows up in his career, where he stagnates and wonders why. It shows up in his health, his habits, his mood, his self-worth. Everything is a reflection. And because he never looks at the mirror, he never learns how to change what he sees. But here's the truth. Stupidity is not permanent. It is not a fixed trait. It is a state of resistance, a refusal to evolve, and that can change at any moment. With one decision: to stop running, to stop pretending, to stop blaming and distracting and avoiding, to sit in silence, look in the mirror, and say, maybe it's me. Maybe I have more to learn. That's where transformation begins. Not in books, not in lectures. In radical self-honesty, in the quiet moment where a man chooses to know himself fully, without judgment, without excuses. That moment is the death of stupidity and the birth of real wisdom. Carl Jung didn't believe that enlightenment was about perfection. He believed it was about wholeness, about integrating all the parts of ourselves we've hidden or ignored. The weak parts, the angry parts, the scared parts, the foolish parts. The man who reflects begins this work. The man who avoids it stays split, forever playing a role, forever blaming the world for what he never faced in himself. The signs of a stupid man are not always visible, but they are felt in his defensiveness, in his chaos, in his ego, in his avoidance. But if you recognize these signs in yourself, it's not too late. In fact, it's the best thing that could happen, because awareness is the first step toward power, and reflection is the first step toward freedom. If you can pause long enough to ask, "What am I not seeing?" you're already moving out of the trap. You're already waking up. And once you wake up, life changes. Not because the world is different, but because you are. So ask the question, sit with the discomfort, reflect, grow. That's how foolishness becomes wisdom. That's how a boy becomes a man. And that's how you stop being a product of your past and become the architect of your future.